room went quiet. Not the quiet of a library, but the quiet of a tomb right before the stone lid slammed shut. There were 12 of them. 12 of the deadliest professionals the Syndicate had ever bred, standing in a perfect kill circle, their plasma rifles humming with a sound that sets your teeth on edge. I was a diplomat, a man of words, of ink and paper, and at that moment I was a dead man. I knew it, they knew it. The air smelled of ozone and cheap recycled oxygen, the scent of the grave. My guard, he was just a man named Ronin. He stood beside me, hands in the heavy pockets of a canvas coat that had seen better decades, looking at the execution squad with the kind of boredom usually reserved for a long wait at a rainy bus stop. I closed my eyes, waiting for the flash, waiting for the end. But the shot never came. Instead, I heard a sound that didn't belong in a room full of killers. I opened my eyes and saw the impossible. The squad leader, a man who had likely killed more people than I had ever met, was staring at Ronin's face. He wasn't aiming anymore, he was shaking. He looked like he had just seen a ghost crawl out of the ground to collect a debt. And in a way he had, because that wasn't just an old man standing next to me. It was a legend that the galaxy had tried very hard to forget. To understand the fear in that room, you have to understand the place. We were on the Iron Lung, a mining station drifting in the asteroid belt of the Chirac system. It was the kind of place where civilization was a suggestion, not a rule. The station groaned constantly, the metal hull expanding and contracting under the stress of the void, sounding like a dying beast wheezing for air. It smelled of hydraulic fluid, unwashed bodies, and the metallic tang of processed ore. I was there on behalf of the Coalition to negotiate a trade route with a local warlord named Krelll. The Coalition, in their infinite wisdom, decided that sending a full platoon of Marines would be too aggressive, so they sent me with a single protection officer. They sent Ronin. I didn't know much about him when we boarded the transport. He was old, that much was clear. In an era where genetic therapies can keep a man looking 30 well into his centennial, Ronin wore his age like a badge of honor he refused to polish. His hair was iron gray, cropped close to a skull that bore the scars of 100 bad days. His face was a roadmap of deep canyons, lines etched by sun glare and grimacing. He didn't move with the fluid, chemically enhanced grace of the modern soldiers you see on the recruitment posters. He moved with a heavy, deliberate economy. Every step was planted. Every motion had a purpose. He wasted nothing. He didn't talk much either. On the 3-day burn to the Chirac system, he sat in the corner of the shuttle sharpening a knife that looked as old as he did. The steel was dark, carbon-scored, and he ran the whetstone over it with a rhythmic shh that sounded like a heartbeat. When I asked him if he was worried about the mission, he didn't look up. He just said, "Worry's a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere." When we docked at the Iron Lung, the gravity generators were malfunctioning, making everyone feel 10 pounds heavier. It suited the atmosphere. We walked through the main concourse, a tunnel of flickering lights and shadowy alcoves. Eyes watched us from the dark. Hungry eyes, desperate eyes. I clutched my briefcase to my chest, trying to look official, trying to look like I belonged. Ronin walked a step behind me and to the left. He didn't scan the crowd with that frantic, swivel-head paranoia of the rookies. He just looked. His gaze was a physical thing, a heavy weight that touched people and made them step back. Thugs who were sizing me up for a robbery took one look at the way Ronin carried himself and suddenly found something very interesting to look at on the floor. It wasn't that he looked aggressive. It was that he looked ready. There is a specific kind of calm that comes from men who have seen the worst the universe has to offer and survived it. It's a quiet signal that says, "I have been to hell and I am the one who evicted the devil." We reached the meeting point, a converted cargo bay at the far end of the station. Krelll was waiting. If the station was a dying beast, Krelll was the parasite feeding on it. He was a Vrakian, a species known for their size and their temper. 7 feet of scaled muscle, yellow eyes, and a mouth full of teeth that looked like serrated daggers. He was surrounded by 4 of his lieutenants, all of them armed with heavy blasters, all of them looking at us like we were the appetizer. Krelll sat on a crate, sharpening a cleaver. When we entered, he laughed. It was a wet, ugly sound. "The Coalition mocks me," Krelll rumbled, his voice vibrating in the floor plates. I asked for a tribute. "They send me a suit and a corpse." I stepped forward, my voice trembling despite my best efforts. "I am here to discuss the mineral rights to Sector 7. The Coalition offers a fair percentage." "Fair." Krelll stood up, kicking the crate aside. He towered over me. The smell of him was overpowering, rotting meat and engine grease. "I take what is mine. That is fair, and you," he pointed a claw at Ronin. "You bring this relic to protect you? Look at him, he stands there like a statue. I bet his joints have rusted shut." Ronin didn't blink. He stood with his hands in the pockets of that long, dust-colored coat. He didn't look at Krell's eyes. He watched the warlord's hands. He watched his center of gravity. He was doing the math. "We here to talk, or are we here to dance?" Ronin asked. His voice was like gravel crunching under a boot. Low flat, unimpressed. Krell stopped laughing. He leaned in, his face inches from Ronin's. "You have a big mouth for a dying man. And you have bad breath," Ronin said. He didn't shout, he didn't posture. He just stated it as a fact. "Now sit down and let the man talk. My feet hurt and I want to get this done before dinner." The insult hung in the air, thick and heavy. Krell roared, his hand dropping to the blaster on his hip. I flinched, expecting the room to explode in laser fire. But before Krell could draw, the blast doors behind us hissed open. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees in a second. It wasn't reinforcements, it was the Syndicate. We hadn't known they were in the system. The Syndicate doesn't announce its presence. They are the scalpel to the warlord's hammer. 12 men walked in. They were not like Krell's thugs. They were professional killers. They wore matching matte black combat armor that absorbed the light, leaving them looking like silhouettes cut from the void itself. Their helmets were sleek, faceless visors reflecting the grim surroundings. They moved in perfect unison, a flowing river of death fanning out to encircle us. They carried plasma rifles, military grade, the kind that can punch a hole through a tank. The leader of the Syndicate team stepped forward. He removed his helmet with a hiss of pressurization seals disengaging. He was human, pale, with a scar running from his temple to his jaw. His eyes were cold, dead things. He looked at Krell, then at me. "The deal is off," the Syndicate leader said smoothly. "Our employers have decided that the Coalition does not need a foothold in this sector. No witnesses." Krell looked nervous. Even a brute like him knew who the Syndicate was. "You don't fight them. You don't negotiate with them. You die or you run." "This is my station," Krell blustered, but he took a step back. "You cannot simply walk in here and..." "We can do whatever we are paid to do," the leader interrupted. He raised a hand. 12 rifles snapped up, leveling at us. The hum of the charging capacitors was the loudest sound in the universe. "Kill them all, burn the bodies." My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. This was it. This was the end. I looked at Ronin, begging him with my eyes to do something, anything. "They're going to kill us," I whispered, my voice cracking. Ronin didn't reach for a weapon, he didn't crouch. He took one slow step forward, placing himself between me and the rifles. He looked at the Syndicate leader. "You might want to check your safety, son," Ronin said. "That trigger looks a little sensitive." The leader laughed. "You have spirit, old man. I'll give you that. It's a shame spirit doesn't stop plasma. Step aside and I'll make it quick. Stay and I will peel you apart." Ronin sighed. It was a long, weary sound. The sound of a man who has had this conversation 1,000 times and is tired of the repetition. He reached into his coat pocket. Every rifle in the room twitched. Fingers tightened. Krell ducked behind a crate. But Ronin didn't pull out a grenade. He didn't pull out a blaster. He pulled out a small, battered tin of chewing tobacco. He cracked the lid, the sound sharp in the silence. He took a pinch, packed it into his lower lip, and spat a stream of dark juice onto the deck plates, inches from the Syndicate leader's pristine black boots. "I wasn't asking for permission," Ronin said softly. "I was giving you a chance." The leader's face twisted in rage. The disrespect was absolute. "Open fire," he screamed. But then Ronin moved, not to attack. He simply reached up with his left hand and unbuttoned the top clasp of his heavy canvas coat. He pulled the collar of his undershirt to the side, exposing the weathered skin of his neck. There was a tattoo there. It was faded, the blue ink bleeding into the wrinkles of his skin, blurred by time and sun. It wasn't a dragon, it wasn't a skull. It was a simple geometric image, a shattered hourglass, and beneath it a string of numbers and a single word, Hades. The Syndicate leader froze. His eyes locked onto that mark. His mouth opened to shout the command again, but the words died in his throat. He squinted, leaning forward involuntarily. The blood drained from his face so fast it was as if someone had pulled a plug. He went pale, then gray.
"Hold fire," the leader whispered. His voice trembled.
"Sir?" one of his men asked, confused. "We have the solution. I said hold fire!" The leader screamed. his voice cracking with a panic that bordered on hysteria. He slammed his hand down on the barrel of the man next to him, forcing the weapon down. "Now do it now!" The room was frozen in confusion. Krell peeked over his crate, his yellow eyes wide. I stood there paralyzed. The Syndicate leader was breathing hard, staring at Ronin with a look that I can only describe as religious terror. Ronin spat again. He looked at the leader. "You recognize the ink, do you?" The leader swallowed hard. He nodded. "The Siege of Hades Prime. The 101st Dropshock Division, the Timekeepers." "That's right," Ronin said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming something primal. "We held the Hades moon for 6 months. No air support, no resupply. Just us and the entire Dominion heavy infantry. They threw 3 legions at us, bombed us from orbit, sent in the mechanoids." Ronin took a step closer. "You know how many of us walked off that rock?" The leader's voice was a whisper, barely audible. 2, the records say only 2 men survived. 1, Ronin corrected him gently. "Miller died last week, heart gave out. Guess the quiet finally got to him. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush a starship." The Syndicate soldiers looked at their leader, then at the old man. They started to understand they were looking at a ghost, a myth. The Siege of Hades Prime wasn't just a battle, it was a meat grinder. It was the place where the Dominion learned that humans do not break. They might die, they might bleed, but they do not break. And the men who came out of that pit, they weren't men anymore. They were something else. "That is Ronin," the leader whispered to his men, his voice shaking. "Ronin the Gravewalker. They say he killed a Dominion warlord with a shovel because he didn't want to waste a bullet. They say he walked through a minefield just to light a cigarette." Ronin watched them. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He looked like a disappointed father catching his children playing with a loaded gun. "You boys are a long way from home," Ronin said. "And you are pointing weapons at a man who just wants to finish his job and get a hot meal. Now my knees ache when it rains and the recyclers on this station are making it humid. I don't have the patience I used to have." He took a step forward. The Syndicate soldiers stepped back. It was instinctual. The predator in their brain recognized a bigger predator. "So here is how this is going to go," Ronin continued. "You have 2 choices. Choice A. You turn around, walk out that airlock, get back on your ship and find a new line of work. Maybe farming. Farming is nice. It's quiet." He paused. He let the silence stretch. He let them imagine what came next. "Or choice B," Ronin said, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried across the room. "You pull those triggers, but you better understand something. I've been killed before, it didn't take, and if you make me draw the iron I have under this coat, I am not going to stop until every single one of you is part of the architecture." The Syndicate leader looked at Ronin. He looked at the steady hands, the calm eyes, the absolute, unshakable certainty radiating off the man. He knew the legends. He knew that the Timekeepers were trained to fight until the last drop of blood, to fight with broken bones and punctured lungs. He knew that if he started this fight, he might win, but he would not survive it. "We didn't know," the leader said. He holstered his pistol. It was a snap decision, a survival reflex. "The contract on it didn't mention you, we didn't know." "Now you do," Ronin said. "We withdraw," the leader announced. He looked at his men. "Move out. Now. Leave the power cells," Ronin added, "as a penalty for wasting my time." I watched in disbelief as 12 elite assassins, men who toppled governments for money, unclipped the ammunition cores from their rifles and set them gently on the dirty floor. They moved with a hurried, nervous energy, avoiding eye contact with the old man. The leader paused at the door. He looked back at Ronin, then bowed. It was a stiff, formal bow of respect mixed with fear. Then the door hissed shut and they were gone. The room was silent again. I looked at Krell. The massive Vrakian warlord was standing up slowly. The arrogance was gone, the hunger was gone. He was staring at Ronin with wide, terrified eyes. He had just watched the most feared hit squad in the sector run away from a human with a tobacco habit. He looked at the power cells on the floor, then at Ronin's back. Ronin turned to Krell. He shifted the tobacco in his cheek.
"Now," he said, "about those mineral rights."
"My friend here has a proposal, and since my schedule just cleared up, I have plenty of time to sit here and ensure the negotiations are equitable." Krell swallowed. I actually saw the lump in his throat move. "Yes," Krell said. His voice was polite, respectful. "Please sit, we will sign the treaty. Whatever terms you wish, we got the deal. We got everything we wanted and then some." Krell was so eager to get us off his station that he practically gave us the ore for free. On the flight back, the shuttle was quiet. The stars streaked by outside the viewport, lines of white fire in the black. I sat across from Ronin. He was cleaning his fingernails with that old knife again, staring out at the void. He looked tired. Not sleepy, but deep down weary, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. "Is it true?" I asked finally. The question had been burning in my throat for hours. What they said about Hades' prime? Ronin didn't look at me. He kept working the knife. "Stories get taller the farther they travel, kid. People like myths. It makes the dark feel less empty. But you were there." "I was there," he admitted softly. "And did you really kill a warlord with a shovel?" Ronin chuckled. It was a dry, raspy sound like sandpaper on wood. It was an entrenching tool, sharpened on 3 sides. And he was trying to stab me with a spear. It seemed appropriate. He wiped the blade on his trousers and sheathed it. He leaned back, resting his head against the bulkhead. "War isn't about being the strongest, kid. It isn't about who has the biggest gun or the fastest ship. The Syndicate boys, they're technicians. They know how to operate the machines of war. But they don't know war. They haven't smelled it, they haven't tasted it." He looked at his hands. They were scarred, thick-fingered, steady. It's about will. It's about deciding that you are not going to move no matter what they throw at you. It's about looking the devil in the eye and letting him know that you are prepared to go to hell. But you are absolutely planning on taking him with you. That's what scares them. They saw a man who had already died and come back. You can't kill a ghost. I looked at him, really looked at him. I saw the weight of the memories he carried. The friends he had buried. The things he had done to survive. But underneath that I saw the steel. The kind of steel that doesn't bend, doesn't break, and doesn't rust. It just endures. "You saved my life," I said quietly. "You didn't fire a shot and you saved my life." "I did my job," Ronin grunted. "Why do you do it?" I asked. "You could retire. You could go somewhere quiet, sit on a porch, watch the sunset. Why keep doing this? Why keep walking into rooms full of killers?" Ronin opened one eye. It was blue, piercing, and incredibly clear. "Because there are wolves in the dark, kid. There always have been. And someone has to stand at the door. Someone has to be the one to say no further. It might as well be me. I've got nothing else to do. Besides," he tapped the pocket where he kept his tobacco, "porches are boring." As the ship jumped into hyperspace, blurring the stars into a tunnel of light, I realized something profound. The galaxy is full of noise. Politicians shouting, engines roaring, weapons firing. It's full of high-tech gadgetry, shiny armor, and young men eager to prove how dangerous they are. But when the chips are down, when the walls are closing in and the lights go out, you don't want the noise. You don't want the shiny new toy. You want the old way. You want the grit. You want the man who doesn't flinch. If you understand that, if you understand that some things like honor, like duty, like pure stubborn resolve, never go out of style, then you understand men like Ronin. They are the old breed. They don't ask for thanks. They don't ask for medals. They don't want your pity. They just stand the watch. And God help anyone who tries to get past them. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many others are out there? How many quiet old men and women are sweeping floors or driving trucks or sitting on park benches feeding pigeons, who carry the history of saved worlds in their scars? You walk past them every day. You don't see them. You see a wrinkle, a limp, a gray hair, but they see you. They see everything. And they are watching the door, just in case the wolves come back. That's the thing about the old breed. They don't advertise, they don't brag on the holonet. They just wait. And when the time comes, they remind the universe why humanity is still here. It's not because we're the smartest species. It's not because we're the strongest. It's because we are too damn stubborn to die. We are the persistence hunters. We are the ones who walk through the fire and come out the other side holding a light. And sometimes just the memory of what we can do is enough to make an army turn tail and run. I watched Ronin sleep for the rest of the trip. He didn't move, he didn't snore. He sat perfectly still, arms crossed, ready to wake at the first sign of trouble. I felt safer than I had ever felt in my life. And I knew that when we landed, when I went back to my soft bed and my safe office, I would never look at an old soldier the same way again, because I knew that beneath the gray hair and the slow walk there was a monster that was on our side. And in a galaxy as dark as ours, that is a very good thing to have. So the next time you see someone like him, someone who looks like yesterday's news, someone who moves a little slow and speaks a little soft, just remember, beware of an old man in a profession where men usually die young. There is a reason he is still breathing. There is a reason the scars are on his skin and not on his back. And there is a reason the monsters check under their beds for him. That's a lesson the Syndicate learned the hard way, and it's a lesson the galaxy would do well not to forget.